So we're on page 94, chapter 5. It's about tissues. And tissues are groups of cells working together. I skipped all the chapters on what makes up a cell. I'm assuming you already had that in biology. You know, the parts of a cell, do you remember that? The nucleus and the endoplasmic reticulum and the ribosomes. You remember that stuff, Sam? That was your favorite stuff, wasn't it?
No.
You're just saying that. That was a leading question I gave him. Anyway, so tissues are a bunch of cells working together. And there's actually 4 types of tissues in the body. There's epithelial tissue, which are covering, tissues that cover body surfaces. Like your skin is considered an epithelial tissue because it covers the outside of your body. Your mucous membrane is considered to be an epithelial tissue because it covers the inside of your mouth. You see what I'm saying? Your heart has a membrane lying over it, a covering to your heart. And that's also considered to be an epithelial tissue. The epicardium. You heard that word before, the epicardium? That was on one of our ID sheets. So, epithelial tissues cover things. Then you have what we call connective tissues. Connective tissues connect things together. They support things. Your blood is considered to be a connective tissue because your blood moves around and delivers stuff from one place to another. Your blood is, in a sense, connecting parts of your body together. Anyone here ever torn a ligament or anything like that? Sprained a ligament, or ligaments are connections between bones. Tendons, have you ever heard of that? A tendon is a connection between a muscle and a bone. So these are all forms of connective tissue. Muscles, ligaments, tendons, blood. Those are all connective tissues. Muscle tissue allows for movement in the body. Muscle tissue can move. Muscle has a way, which we're going to study, muscle has a way of shortening. The structure of a muscle cell kind of looks like this, and it can get shorter. It has little things like oars, almost like oars of a boat. They can pull the muscle in tight. So muscle can shorten, you see. So if I want to move my arm up like this, I just take this biceps muscle and I shorten it, and the arm comes right up. And then if I want to move it back down, I just shorten that muscle and it comes back down. Shorten, shorten. We'll study how muscles work, but muscle tissue is tissue that can shorten. And then you have nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is tissue that can communicate. You can send a nerve signal from your brain down your arm to your muscle. And your brain can tell your muscle to shorten. And so nervous tissue can send signals. It's kind of an electrical, it's called an electrochemical signal. Nervous tissue can signal from one place to another and allow the body's parts to communicate. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the epithelial tissues, the covering, the tissues that cover. Okay? Is it better if I turn the light out? What do y'all think? 2 people nodding,
Yeah, sure.
17 people sitting. That works better? All right. The first type of tissue we're going to study is called simple squamous epithelium. Now, when you break these words down, it makes it a lot easier. So, what is epithelium? I just told you. Yeah, and what does epithelium do, basically?
Cover.
It covers. Okay, so epithelium is a covering. Simple, that word means a single layer of cells. One layer of cells. A cell here, a cell here, a cell here, a cell here. It forms a single layer. That's what the word simple means. Squamous means that the cells are flat, like a pancake. Pancake-shaped cells. So one layer of pancake-shaped cells that cover an organ. That's simple squamous epithelium. Make sense? And so here we see some of it. This is kind of looking down on the tissue. You see this bunch of flat pancake-looking cells. The blue thing is the nucleus of the cell. Here's how it would look under your microscope.
What's the brown?
This stuff here? I don't know. Some junk in the cells. Good question. This is a nice view of simple squamous epithelium. When we look at it, it'll look more like this. And you see these cells, cell there, cell there, cell there. It's kind of looking at it from the side, this layer of cells.
It's like if you're looking at the ocean, it's sideways.
That's right. This is looking down on the ocean, and this is looking sideways on the ocean. And there's the surface of the ocean. Very nice. We see this simple squamous epithelium in several locations. It helps make up your lung tissue. You see, your lungs, the air comes into a little sac in your lungs, and that air sac, there's millions of them in the lungs. They're microscopic. Each air sac is made of single layers of cells, so that the air can come in and can diffuse right through this thin layer of cells, you see, and into your blood. So you need a thin layer to make up any kind of tissue where stuff is going to move through it. There's Drew. Yeah. What's up, man? Get a little late sleep today? That's pretty nice. Wish I could do that.
We might need to switch.
Don't let me be late. You know, I don't get 4 lates then a detention. I get detention every day here after school. Yeah, all right. Next type of epithelium is called simple cuboidal. Simple means, what's simple mean? You tell me. Everybody yell it out. What? One layer. Simple is one layer. Epithelium is what? Covering. Come on, y'all. One layer of covering, and the cells are shaped like cubes. They're not shaped like pancakes. They're shaped like cubes. You know what a cube is, right? If you go look in the kidneys are organs that filter waste. And if you go look in the kidneys, you'll see these cube-shaped cells. That's what they look like. That's a cube-shaped cell there, and there's another, and there's another. And they line the kidney tubules. The kidney tubules are little tubes, little microscopic tubes inside the kidneys where your body fluids go through and the wastes are taken out, and you end up peeing them out. And so that's what you're looking for, little cube-shaped cells that form a kind of tube. And you see, this is 3D. We're taking a cross-section of it, but it actually comes out at you, you see. This would be a long hose-like tube that comes out at you. But when you make the slide, you cut it, and so on the slide there, you see all the little circles there that make up the tubes. You'll be able to see that pretty clearly. The simple cuboidal epithelium is one of the easier ones to see. You just got to get a kidney slide. Simple columnar epithelium. What's simple mean? One layer. What's epithelium mean? Covering. You should all be yelling this at the same time. That's what my biology class would do. You can see these long cells. You see them there? These long cells. It's shaped like a column. It's a long cell. And they're all lined up. We see this inside the intestine. This is your small intestine. The small intestine is an organ here that's a long tube that's all folded up that your food goes through so you can digest it. And the walls of the small intestine are made up of this covering of epithelial cells that are all lined up. They're shaped like columns, and they're lined up one by one. And what they'll do is they'll absorb the food. They'll take the food in. They have little hairs on the end called villi, and they take the food in and pull it down inside and pass it along to blood vessels that are underneath here. And there has to be a thick layer of covering here because there's acids and such. Could be bad stuff in the food here, and you want to protect the organ from that. So the covering here is kind of thick. So you have these column-shaped cells instead of the little cube-shaped cells. What do y'all think about that? We aren't too awake this morning. Okay, it starts to get a little bit tougher here. Pseudostratified columnar epithelium. What's epithelium mean?
Covering.
Let's try it, everybody, at the same time. When I say what's epithelium mean, everyone say covering. You ready? What's epithelium mean?
Covering.
Okay. That was all right.
What's smooth feeling?
What's columnar mean?
Column.
Column shaped. So stratified, what stratified means is layered. Stratified is having many layers. I tell you what, let me go forward and just show you stratified squamous, and then we'll come back to pseudostratified. That'll probably make it easier for me to explain. So, epithelium means. Come on, y'all got worse. Let's try it all together. Epithelium means.
Covering.
Okay. And squamous means. Flat. Like pancake shaped. And stratified means many layers. Very good. Okay, you're getting a little better. Getting a little better. Do you see how there's many layers of cells here? This is stratified squamous epithelium. These are flat-looking cells, pancake-looking cells, but they're layered over and over and over. This is what your skin looks like. Also, it's what the mucous membrane looks like, the inside of your mouth. Many layers of cells. The inside of your throat looks like this. Cell after cell after cell. And the top cells will kind of flake off. And the bottom cells down at the very bottom are multiplying. Those don't look so flat. But up here, they're really flat looking. These cells multiply, and they push these cells upward as they multiply. And as the cell gets further and further up, it dies. So at the very top of stratified squamous epithelium, the cells are often dead, and they fall off. That's what your skin is like. And your skin cells just constantly kind of flake off. Did you know that? They say half of dust is dead human skin cells. Isn't that gross? So that's stratified squamous. So going back one, pseudostratified columnar. These cells are column-shaped cells. They're kind of long and thin, but they call them pseudostratified because pseudo means false, and stratified means layered. So they're falsely layered. When you look at them under the microscope, it looks like there's layers of cells. You see, it looks like there's kind of a cell here and a cell underneath it, maybe a cell underneath that. But that's not true. These cells are arranged in such a way where sometimes the nucleus of the cell is on the bottom, and sometimes the nucleus of the cell is on the top. And often often the cells kind of curl around one another. So often you'll see one nucleus looks like it's under another, and it makes it look like there's layers when there's not. So they're falsely stratified. There's not really layers. These cells are found lining the passageway to the lungs, and they're the ones that have hairs on them that keep cigarette smoke and other types of pollutants from getting into your lungs. See, they're covered with hairs. Do you remember I showed you the cancer picture of some of the cancer cells? See, if you smoke a lot, these things will get a bunch of the pollutants in them, and they may turn cancerous. And they start multiplying out of control, and then you see the cancer come about somewhere in either the trachea, the windpipe, or the lungs down here. That's a common cancer, lung cancer. It's very deadly cancer because it can spread easily. So that's pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Here's another type, stratified cuboidal epithelium. What's epithelium mean, everybody?
Covering.
Covering. What's cuboidal mean?
Cube shape.
Cube shape. Oh, y'all are getting good. What's stratified mean? Many layers. You already know what this is. I don't even have to explain it. It's many layers of cube-shaped cells that cover. Your salivary glands have this type of cells. You see these cube-shaped cells covering one of the ducts of your salivary glands? And then there's another layer on top of it. And there could be a third layer. Several layers of cube-shaped cells. Here's how the cells look. See, they're kind of stacked up on one another. Stratified columnar epithelium. What's epithelium mean?
Covering.
Covering. What's columnar mean? Column shaped. What's stratified mean?
Many layers.
Many layers. You see many layers of column-shaped cells stacked on top of one another in the urethra, the little tube you pee out of. And it covers, see, pee comes out here, and here are the stacked cells lining the tubule. Because there's a lot of bad stuff sometimes in your pee. There are wastes and poisons, and for you guys, there's alcohol and nicotine and THC, cracked cocaine, I think is what you guys are doing now. Anyway, so that's all got to be, you got to protect your body against that. So there's look at these layers of cells that will protect the inside of the organ against all of those poisons. Another type of epithelium is called transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium is kind of cool because it's just cells kind of stacked on one another, and they're almost cube-shaped at first, but these are organs that can stretch. Your bladder is an organ that can stretch as your kidneys put pee down into your bladder. Your bladder goes from, real small, and it stretches out to be real big. And as the organ stretches, these cells that are kind of stacked up on one another, they flatten out. So here is an empty bladder. Here are the cells lining the bladder. And here's a full bladder. You've stretched it out. It's just like stretching out a balloon, like blowing up a balloon. The skin of the balloon stretches out, and the cells become flatter. We call that transitional epithelium. And any organ that stretches a lot has transitional epithelium, like the bladder. Or I think there's some transitional epithelium in the uterus. The container that holds the mom's baby. It'll really stretch as the baby grows. finally, the last bit of epithelium we talk about are the glands, what we call glandular epithelium. You have three types of glands that squirt stuff out from your surfaces of your body. They're called merocrine glands, apocrine glands, and holocrine glands. Let's take a look at these three types. Merocrine glands are glands where the cells, here's the cells that line the gland. Each cell creates a product, a cellular product, like a protein. And if you remember biology, we studied how cells make proteins. The ribosomes are used, and there's two processes, transcription and translation. Any of this ring a bell? A couple of people nodding. And some product is produced and squirted out of the cell, and then the gland pushes, the stuff gets pushed out as more is created and secreted from the surface of the gland. It shows the pancreas here. The pancreas is an organ that squirts out digestive juices and squirts out hormones, and it squirts them out through what we call merocrine glands, where digestive enzymes get squirted out this way. So a merocrine gland is when just there's a product made and it gets pushed out of the cell. By a process we call exocytosis, the product gets pushed out. And hopefully you remember some of the biology there. The next type of gland, the apocrine gland, is that's like what your mammary glands do, ladies. There's a female breast, and there's what the inside of your breast looks like. It's got a bunch of these mammary glands. They're not active until you have a baby. So this wouldn't work unless you're pregnant, just about to have a kid. All of a sudden, these mammary glands kick on, and the cells that line the inside of the glands produce milk. And instead of secreting the milk out through the walls of the cells, pieces of the cell break off. So right here you see a piece, this cell, a piece of it is broken off, and it's full of milk, and it floats out and floats down into the nipple, and then the baby sucks on the nipple and gets all these cells, pieces of cells that are full of milk in the baby's mouth, and the baby swallows them. So the baby, it's the milk that comes out of a breast isn't actually just liquid milk, it's pieces of cells. Isn't that kind of gross? Thought you'd be interested. That's why there's a lot of fat in milk, because the membranes of cells are made of fat molecules. That's one reason there's a lot of fat in milk. There's also fat in the milk that's secreted. But that's kind of interesting that there's a lot of cell parts in there too. So that's an apocrine gland. Finally, the holocrine gland, instead of releasing just proteins by secretion or pieces of cells, what happens is entire cells break off. There's an entire cell see, these cells that line the inside are constantly dividing. I don't know if y'all recognize mitosis happening right here, where the cells divide, and then the cell, full of product, floats away, nucleus and all, and floats out of the gland. We call that a holocrine gland. The cells in your skin that produce oils, you ever heard of oily skin? There are cells that line every hair that you have on your body has an oil gland connected to its base. And that oil gland squirts out cells that are full of oil. And these oily cells move up and sit on top of the hair and cause the hair to be nice and oily. And that oil remains for a long time because it's protected by a cell membrane, you see. And the oil kind of slowly leaks out through the membrane, covers the hair, and your hair stays kind of oily a little bit. You don't want your hair to have no oil on it to get all dried up, because then it frays, it comes apart. Girls, you ever have split ends? You know what that is? It's the end of the hair has lost all its oiliness and kind of frays off. You can slow that process down by shampooing your hair with oily shampoo. They put that in shampoo to keep the hair having some oil from getting too dry.
So
yes?
is that where the actual, like, oil?
Yeah, the oil in your oily skin comes from those glands right there.
So that's part of the secretion.
That's correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This picture here is a close-up of what you would see if you looked at these glands. Okay, so it's kind of a long section. 5.2, 5.1 is only a couple paragraphs, but 5.2 is about 6 pages, and that's your reading tonight. So it's kind of a lot. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go in the lab and we're going to set up the microscopes and just kind of take a look at blood, and you might have time to do another slide. Okay, so that's it. I guess you can turn